And welcome, ladies and gentlemen and hermaphrodites, to another exciting episode of the Vinny Eastwood Show. Today's topic, we're going to be talking about why are difficult people in the truth movement. It may seem quite simple, it may appear very complicated, but they can cause enough of a kerfuffle in your life if you believe, falsely, of course, that everybody's in the truth movement for the exact same reason. Before we get into that, we have some articles that we're going to quickly pour over. First on the blog, I found that quite interesting, as people actually thought this was news, the key word operating there being new, but it's not new. We were tricked into sexual relationships with police officers. And this is coming out of the New Zealand Herald here, and this is far from a news story because many years ago, when I was a young activist, I met this woman called Rochelle Rees, who was successful in a case called Rees versus Police over the use of a megaphone in public, for which she was arrested. Now, as an activist, she got into a relationship with a man and was in that relationship, a sexual relationship, for nearly 2 years before she found out that he was an undercover cop infiltrating her activism organization and her other organization. Anyway, the point I'm trying to make here, if I can use those words, is that you cannot frickin' trust the police. All right, so obviously we should know that by now, but there's still a lot of people out there who are going like, oh, but there's some good cops, Vinny. Really? How many bad cops did they arrest? Oh, well, you know, they just helped me out with a thing. They helped you out with, like, your flat tire or something like that on the side of the road? Yeah. Oh, okay. And did they spend that day otherwise giving people traffic tickets and fines and things of that nature, and making their days harder and making it harder to feed their kids for things that are actually not a crime? Well, I don't know, probably. Yeah, they probably did, mate. All right, so I don't know how you are with math, but if you do one nice thing and 7 other really bad things for somebody's day, that doth not override the kind of stuff. In fact, even if you do one bad thing during a day, depending on the bad thing, it means that the good that you do can't outdo the bad that you do, right? And that's the police, right? In general, in a nutshell, you bad people. Okay? You don't want to be seen as a bad person. I know you don't, but you are. As soon as you put on that uniform, you're not you anymore. You're a bad person now. Okay? That's what, and you're accepting money for this. Right? You're not volunteering doing this to try and benefit the community. You're getting paid, yo. That does not make you a good person if you're doing really horrible things and messing up people's lives, lying, cheating, stealing, raping, pillaging. I mean, what are you? Some kind of Viking pirate troop, you know, with your little costumes on? It's like, dude, the public has been brainwashed so massively to believe that the police are just the nicest people. Usually people who haven't been arrested before. Okay? I've been arrested, how many times? I guess technically 3 times, you know, arrested and charged and convicted, you know. And I gotta say, each time, it wasn't a pleasant experience. And the police were not honest with me, and they were not nice. So, because I am, you know, generally honest and nice, they exploit that. And this is the thing about abusive personality types, which I would hazard a guess that the police actively try to recruit, is that they're delusional. Right? They're absolutely delusional in their own self-image. And if you come up with the truth, they will use that truth against you. Okay? If you tell them anything, they'll try and use it against you. Whatever it is. You know, don't have conversations with these people. Cop comes up to me, asks me a question, and I say, I don't answer questions. And they go, oh yeah, what? How come? And I go, well, that's a question. And I just told you that I don't answer questions. Because what they try and do is get you like caught up in a little trap of some description and overflate some other stuff and manufacture some evidence here or there, but a bit of hearsay added onto it, a bit of assumption on their part, and boom, you're in jail for something that's not a crime. Right? That's how they operate. And it's not entirely dissimilar from having an abusive relationship. That's just how they operate. Don't talk to them, man. You'd be screwed if you do. Now, I do want to ask people in the chat room and things of that nature, is Vinny Eastwood live? I've got to check out a whole bunch of other things because we just did some technical issues and the network has changed venues as well. So there's a whole bunch of things that should be going like clockwork and what have you, but when you're switching everything over, there can be little issues. So generate a little bit of a feedback in the chat room if there's anything untoward going on with the audio and what have you. We've got Riku in the chat room in YouTube. Thank you very much, Riku, for joining us, mate. And I've got a couple of viewers in the Facebook as well. Got Phoenix Walker in there. G'day, Phoenix. Good to see you again, brother. And so, guys, yeah, I'm just talking back about the cops. We wound up seeing this image here that is saying that we were tricked into sexual relationships with police officers. It's just like, my initial comment on that was it just reminds me of an activist back in the day who had a relationship of 2 years with an undercover cop. And in New Zealand, the police have a fitness requirement. So, ladies, if you're an activist and some guy's interested in you and he's handsome, in shape, and an activist himself, yeah, sorry, ladies, he's probably a copper. Now, speaking of cops, we also had this video here from stuff.co.nz about a Hawke's Bay mum claims her teen son had jaw broken clean in half by police. Now, allegedly, this young man has obviously been caught for something he shouldn't be doing. But of course, when you've been caught for something you did do, right, and you're restrained with your hands behind your back, handcuffs, and then they slam your face against the concrete floor 3 times really hard and then put their shin on the back of your head and then break it like, oh, come on, guys. And I love the police's response to these allegations. It's good. It's good. I gotta tell you, if we can zoom in on it for a little bit here for you. I just want to read it off the screen. Police are aware of allegations made about the treatment of a young person in police custody. In the early hours of the 16th of March, a stolen vehicle was located crashed in Napier. 4 young people fled from the crashed vehicle on foot and were located and taken into custody. While in custody, one of those involved complained of pain and was seen by a police doctor and they referred to hospital for further treatment. He's just in custody. He's just randomly complaining of pain. It was inexplicable, and we got him to our police doctor, and then put him out to the thing. Apparently, the police doctor didn't see him for like 3 hours or something like that, with his jaw was broken in half, and then didn't even treat him. Just sent him down the road to the hospital. Right. Quote, an investigation is now underway to establish the full circumstances surrounding the incident and how the young person sustained his injuries. Police are following up with the young person's family and will be liaising with them directly. The IPCA, that's the Independent Police Conduct Authority, which is staffed by the New Zealand Police, sworn officers, has been notified. Really? The police are contacting the police to say that the police need to be investigated. Well, I guess we'll just investigate ourselves then. There's nothing that could possibly go wrong with that kind of enforcement of the law. Who cares if we violate people's rights on a daily basis and things like that? Let's just all be nice here. Let's all just be nice people. Because, an investigation's being conducted. Yes, I saw to it personally. Oh, okay, well, personally how? Oh, I gave it to a bunch of police officers to investigate themselves. Okay. Have you considered that there might be, I don't know, some kind of conflict of interest when it comes to frigging investigating yourself? You just frigging get... And it's the same in the States as well, man. It's everywhere, all right? This is how the bankers operate, man. Okay, let's just get some people to enforce the will of the bankers on the streets. Okay, we've got that. That's good. But of course, if they're enforcing the will of the bankers, they're going to wind up violating everybody's rights and sovereignty as a daily part of their job. What if people complain? Well, we'll handle their complaints and we'll investigate ourselves. That way, nobody will actually ever go to jail for being a, criminal in a uniform. It's just, it's stitched up pretty good and tight, I think. Isn't it? So the police will have sex with you. They'll break your jaw in half. And we might get an article about it that is repeated once. Probably just on the internet streams, not on the mainstream TV. We certainly won't repeat it 1,000 times a day across hundreds of different media platforms. Will we? Because that might not give people the generalized impression that we're doing journalism for money. No, that might actually give people the idea that we're doing journalism for the good of mankind, that we're operating as a fourth estate to oversee the government and all of the horrible things that they do to people on a freaking daily basis. That's not the kind of journalism we're engaged in, ladies and gentlemen. No. We want to be engaged in a very flippant kind of reporting where just occasionally we will give you the truth. But we will bury it under lies of omission, lies of misdirection, lies of misinformation, lies of disinformation. We've got all sorts of techniques to give you the truth, whilst confusing it simultaneously. That's what we're here for, ladies and gentlemen. We are your local media. I don't understand the methodology behind ordinary people like me. I don't even understand my methodology. What am I doing? Right? If I'm telling the truth, and as a result get deplatformed, shadow banned, so on and so forth, then what am I planning on achieving here? Because ultimately, the whole idea of getting the truth out, this is what people tell me all the time. Oh, Vinny, I want to get the truth out. It's going to be so awesome. It's not going to be awesome, I'm afraid, guys. It's going to be a long, hard slog. And after you've slogged really, really long and really, really hard, crack! They'll just take everything you've ever made and wash it away down the kitchen sink. All right? That's what happened to me. That's what happened to Billy. That's what happened to Mike in the Night. Alex Jones, even. It's very, very hard getting an audience when what you're telling is the truth, because the truth is not a popular thing. All right? Because the truth isn't comforting. The truth is not relaxing. Doesn't allow you to just sit back and enjoy the next video, does it? Because it gives you things that distort your perception of reality and rearrange it into perceiving it correctly. And when you perceive things correctly, that means that if you've been doing things incorrectly up until that point, it requires you change the methodology by which you live your life, and most people do not want to do that. Why don't they want to do that? Because it's difficult. It's not comfortable. Even if you talk about cops that I've had on this show, like Constable Buck Rains, he's not even on social media, guys. It's just like... I love Buck, man. He's great because he talks like a real person, despite being a former cop. And former cop, that's okay. Current cop, not okay. What have I had now? I think I've had maybe like 6 to 10 law enforcement professionals on this broadcast talking about how bad their own industry is. How they cover everything up, how they bully everybody in the workplace and stuff like that. It's just, these are the people who are supposed to be keeping your society in order, and they can't even keep their own house in order. And it's not entirely dissimilar from myself or many of the other people in the truth movement who do not quite yet have ourselves together. We might be suffering from mental illness or regular kind of illness, And I feel that we don't practice what we preach to a large degree. We are not being held accountable and responsible, because the only people who can really have us accountable and responsible are ourselves or the major tech companies through which we are able to broadcast these messages of truth. Now, there's been this development called the Freedom Movement, or as what's his name, Mark Passio says, the My Freedom Movement. Okay? That's the thing. They're not about freedom in general. They are about my own freedom. I want a nice place to stay. I want this. I want that. And if somebody encroaches on my freedom, I will be very upset about it. And I will write you a letter telling you how upset I am about it. I can't fathom it, and we're basically to some extent, and I'll admit this myself. Anybody else in the talk radio circuit or the truth movement, you want to admit it or not, it might not be true about you either, but we're hypocrites. We're hypocrites in the truth movement. And what we do day in, day out is try to do the right thing, try to do what's good for humanity, but in so doing, we neglect ourselves and our own responsibilities in various other ways. Am I the only one neglecting his responsibilities and not doing as much work as perhaps we should, considering the steps that the New World Order has taken in order to exacerbate the public against us, And this is what I'm talking about when I talk about there are difficult people in the truth movement, because there's people like that, like myself, who might be a tad hypocritical, who might not practice what they preach to the best degree, but are completely unaware of that fact, right? Because they've built up a self-image, which they actually believe themselves to be flawless. They're freaking delusional people, absolutely off their rocker, crazy delusional. They overestimate their abilities, they overestimate their contributions, they don't accept criticism, right? These are basically personality distorted concepts here about oneself, right? Somebody who hasn't come to the point of self-actualization through working. Is that the only way that we can really work? Is it? Because I'm struggling to understand how we can actually get the job done, right? because Twiss has just said something in the YouTube chat here. Personal responsibility, nailed it. Sound like we truthers need a PR movement like 99% of humans, sad to say, myself included. See, Twiss is honest with himself. So am I. You know, we're not perfect. Ain't nobody flawless. And Sunny in SoCal has come in here from the Ground Zero Radio chat room, so glad to see you, and anybody else in the Ground Zero Radio chat room as well. Come on over to at Vinny Eastwood NZ on YouTube and subscribe to the channel if you can, please. So, and he's mentioning Chris France as well, who's just freaking amazing. Oh my God, Chris, I love you so much, bro. You're freaking onto it. I called this guy up like 9 minutes before the show, and he just immediately, without any, just starts switching stuff around and helping me do my broadcast. It's legendary, you know. And one of the hosts, the host who was on before me, I was on a call with Chris and in the Ground Zero chat room, and they invited me on their show. I don't know who that host is, but they sounded really awesome. They sounded professional, and that's what this network is like. Like I feel like a rogue, you know, like I haven't actually had time to familiarize myself with the other people on the network and listen to all their shows and interview them all and that kind of thing. And I think I've only just realized this right now while we're live on air. I feel bad about that. I'm sorry, guys. I'm sorry I've been freaking disrespectful and caught up in my own little show and stuff like that. It's just not cool. You know, you guys are like my freaking colleagues, and I should actually make an effort to get to know you and interview you on the show and stuff. So if you are a Ground Zero Radio host, go to the VinnyEastwoodShow.com and click on the contact page and send me a email through there, and I will interview you on the show. I promise. All right? I promise. I will do it, guys. Thank you. Thank you very much for being so awesome, even though I don't know exactly to the extent of your awesomeness, but still, I'm making an effort. See, that's what I'm saying. We ain't perfect, but we are having to make an effort. You know, like if somebody apologizes to you and then keeps doing the exact same behavior, what's their apology worth? It's worth nothing, isn't it? It's okay to do wrong, so long as you recognize that it's wrong, say sorry, and then change your behavior. Just modify it a little bit, if you can, please, and try to do better. That would be great, wouldn't it? But some people aren't like that. Some people are extraordinarily gifted at not caring what other people think beyond the surface level. Right? There's a difference between character and reputation. Like, my character is pretty good. My reputation is freaking awesome in some cases, and in some cases I've got a very bad reputation, and I've earned it, you know. But the difference is that your character isn't what other people think of you. Your character is who you really are. And being seen to do good things can trick people. It can trick people into believing that you're a good person, a trustworthy person, somebody that you'd let look after your kids and so on and so forth. But what if you ain't that kind of person? You see people who are doing, you know, truth movement stuff, but in person, they're not nice people. They're not even good people. They're just bad, you know? Like, you know, somebody can insult you and call you every name under the sun, but I think the worst thing for somebody to say about you, if they mean it, is that they're a really bad person. Right? Seriously. Really bad people are in the truth movement, man. Really bad. They're mean. They're vicious. They're cruel. They're foolish. They're mental. They're disrespectful, dishonourable, unkind, disingenuous. You know? And these are the people who are looked up to by the movement. These are, in some cases, the very leaders of movements around the globe, in person, you know, regardless of what persona they put on when they're on the radio. Do I put on a persona? I don't think so. I modify my persona. I mean, for example, this show is about me talking very, very seriously and telling very bad jokes. That's a big portion of my personality. So you will see that I'm very similar in real life to what I am on the show. But the difference being, of course, on the show, am I drinking? No. Not generally speaking, anyway. And so it's just like a different form of personality when things come together, right? How you do your show is not how you do your life. And people, the audience sometimes forgets that. They project onto the people in the truth movement these very positive attributes that they assume that they've got because this person has done this show or whatever. Oh, they woke me up to this, or they inspired me to do this, that, and the other. Okay, that's great, but don't put them on a pedestal. All right? It's a very freaking bad idea. I used to put people in the truth movement on pedestals and things like that, but then I learned who they really were. Can't listen to their show anymore. Can't. It grates on me so badly. It's like being strapped to a chair in a mental institution, having Britney Spears on repeat, as happened to a friend of mine after he blew whistle on Freemasonry. You know, it's not a good time. And it's something like these cardboard cutouts, right? Narcissism is such a freaking huge subject, and there's so many people who are absolutely infected with it. The entire human race is starting to get to it. You know, somebody told me the other day that the United States is probably the front and center, the central narcissistic problem in the world, right? And I have difficulty disagreeing with that premise entirely. It's like, yeah. It is the, you know, quote-unquote greatest country in the world, certainly the wealthiest, if you don't include all the massive debt. But I digress. Shane in the chat room says, hi. Hey, g'day Shane. Thanks for joining us live on the Fushborg. And Twist is asking, in the YouTube thing, was the truth movement hijacked? Now, what I think about it, that would imply it had genuine beginnings. Would suck to think it was artificially created for the powers to be to control the counterspin, right? So that is a very interesting point here, because who was it? Justin Padini. He put a meme up today, and on one person was all this regalia of mainstream media, mainstream politics, and things like that. And then on the other person were a whole bunch of, mainstream right-wing things. Okay, so there's a mainstream left wing and there's a mainstream right wing, but they're still part of the same vulture that just sees your brain rotting and just like swoops down for the kill. You know, and we have a difficulty differentiating sometimes between the genuine people in the truth movement, because not everybody in the truth movement has been taught or has learnt discernment. Even to the point of being very, very old, right? That's the thing. You could be 65, 70 years old and still have not learned one inkling of discernment, right? Because mainstream media was all you knew. Mainstream education was all you knew. Mainstream entertainment was all you knew. And now, think about how many thousands of hours you've actually spent investing and training your brain in order to expect that kind of thing and accept it. And then think about how many thousands of hours you've spent learning the opposite. And it's not an equal playing field, not by a long shot, especially if you spent like maybe 30 years believing the mainstream narrative and then finally frickin' figuring out that skyscrapers don't fall into their own footprint at free fall speed. You know, like, oh, really? You know, yes, really? And somebody actually did have to point that out, because mainstream media is so pervasive at making those towers come down in front of you again and 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 again until the reason why it happened is just passively accepted. Oh, well, of course it was jet fuel. What's jet fuel? Well, it's kerosene. Okay, so kerosene, like as in a kerosene lamp? Yeah. That melted a like steel beam and like the hardiest structures in the world that were like made like a mosquito screen, so that if a plane crashed into them, it'd be like putting a pencil through a mosquito screen and putting that much damage to the overall structure. That's what took them down. An aluminium can filled with flesh and bone melted through steel and made it go so super hot when it was clad with asbestos that it completely destroyed all the support structures 100 stories down at free fall speed, right? When you really think about it, when you look at the details, and it might actually stress to a lot of things, not just, conspiracy theories, but things we don't know, right? For example, I don't know how to fix a refrigerator if it breaks. I know that. But I don't know the things that I don't know, right? What are the parts? What are they called? What do they do? I don't know. I know I don't know those either. So there's all these known unknowns, unknown unknowns, and the complexity of it with discerning what is actually true in freaking reality can be quite difficult. Can't it? Yes, it can. It can be difficult to tell truth from fiction, particularly if you have billion-dollar industries that are designed specifically to prevent you from being able to figure stuff out. Right? They've got all the monies. They've got all the stuff. And they have all the will that is necessary. Don't they? They're very good at what they do, but what they do isn't very good. Why is it that people can awaken to that fact and yet have great difficulty unlearning what they have learned? This is what's happening in our society. We have a generation of people who don't understand the complexity of how reality works or how to discern fact from fiction. And that's not an accident. They infiltrated the schools, and a long time ago, long before public schooling. You know why public schooling got started? Well, let me regale you. There was a nation named Prussia, one might later call Germany in terms of its centralized position, and they had a war, and they were involved in this big thing called the Great War later on, but they had a war with France first. And because the French did not have a public schooling system that kidnapped your children and brainwashed them to support the Kaiser, which is the emperor of the time of this Prussian Empire, when war broke out, there weren't heaps of French kids suddenly lining up and wanting to go to war to defend their government and their country, not like the Prussians did, because they'd been trained not to question. They'd been trained to follow orders, to follow authority, using classic cult indoctrination techniques. They beat the hell out of the French, and you might say, who doesn't? But the point still stands that they did. And the rest of the world went, whoa, could we brainwash our own children? Could we kidnap our own children and make them into willing cannon fodder too? I don't know if we can. I don't even know if we should. But let's just do it anyway, just to be sure. And then the next war that happened was the Great War, the biggest war that anybody had ever seen, a world war. Never been heard of before. It was freaking unbelievable. You know, the scale of death and destruction and devastation, mate. Unfreaking believable. And that's thanks to public schooling. Okay? Previously, people would be schooled with basically the Bible. You know? Do unto others as they would have done unto you, so on and so forth. But when you have an authority that's above God, okay, I mean, there isn't, but if you've got somebody who's pretending to be above God, like a school teacher, or a prime minister, or a president, they have to somehow make you appear virtuous. Virtuous, yes. Oh, I was just following orders, sir. Yes. Okay, that's great. So you did that without question, did you? Yeah. And you broke natural law. Did you damage people or their property? Oh, absolutely. Hundreds of them. Okay. Yeah, you're going to get some karmic feedback for doing that, bro. I'm sorry to say, you might appear virtuous to a group of people who don't got no conscience. But maybe that's not the kind of people you want to appear virtuous to. Have you thought about this? There's ongoing consequences to actions. And if you are not taught to question authority and lay things out in a moral fashion for yourself, you might find out you're in a bit of trouble. Okay? A wee bit of trouble. Oh, we've got Badra in the chat room as well. And of course, the lovely Toyori Mason. We don't care. We don't wear no underwear, he says. And, VJM Publishing, my man Vince is in the chat room as well. He says, because low agreeableness, people reject the government. Is it surely low agreeableness? Wouldn't they just reject everybody because they're low in agreeableness? So how do you get somebody who's low in agreeableness to be very agreeable? All right. Have you heard of torture? Right. That's one way. What kind of torture? Well, I know. Have you ever been deprived of nutrients in your food? That's a kind of torture. Stops your brain from working properly, and so that you can't think your way out of situations or think for yourself and at all for some reason. Okay. You ever had fluorescent lighting? You know, maybe in your office building or your classrooms or something like that. You ever notice how you feel sort of like a bit drowsy, but not sleepy drowsy? Just kind of like brain drowsy? Like, you know? I'm not kidding. This is the real techniques that they're using here to destroy people's brain places, bro. All right? Just don't trust me on this. Because I can't exactly prove it to you because I haven't got the presentation here in front of me. But theory goes that there's a whole bunch of things that bind you to this physical reality, things that influence you, things that you're capable of manipulating and changing as you see fit. And the reason why you're able to do anything is because A, you're being allowed to do it, and 2, you've got the ability to do it, right? You're being allowed, you've got the ability. Now, what if you went into a classroom and you don't have the ability to be your own authority? And say, this is what I'm doing today. I'm not doing that today. Oh, no, you're telling me to do something? I'm not going to do that. What if you don't have that ability? Okay? What if you don't want to learn what they're trying to teach you? And what if you're being forced through truancy and people rolling around to your house to collect you and take you to school because you're not attending your brainwashing like everybody else? Oh, well, he seems to complain that he's very, very sleepy. Well, sleep deprivation is another cult indoctrination technique as well. You've ever seen Full Metal Jacket? You know how they run into the barracks at 6 o'clock, 5 o'clock, 4 o'clock, 3 o'clock in the morning, banging trash can lids, flashing lights in their face, stuff like that. You're waking up in a stress response, cult indoctrination. And after a while, you start to learn the rules and you follow them to the letter, and you appear very grateful for that. Very grateful. Why? Because now you're part of the club. Now you've been taught a different language. Like the doctors. How they teach them Latin. They can talk with all these terms and stuff like that. Oh, I diagnose a patient with arthritis. Really? Arthritis, eh? He's got, what's the symptoms of arthritis? Oh, his joints are sore. His bones are sore. Oh, okay. What does arthritis mean in Latin? Oh, it means joint pain. So somebody goes to the doctor and they tells you you've got joint pain. It's like, yeah, I knew that. It's my joint that's hurting over here. And now you're just saying it in a different language. And now you seem to be, I don't know, you seem to be more educated. You know how people trust the doctors? All right, even though the medical system in New Zealand, just by itself, and I'm pretty sure the American medical institution is very similar too, where it's virtually the leading cause of death, if not definitely the leading cause of death. Like the people who are supposed to help you and keep you healthy and save your life when you're dying are actually more likely to kill you than anybody else. Prescribe you drugs that are wrong, give you unnecessary surgeries, lie to you and tell you certain conditions are incurable, untreatable, so on and so forth, and they just give you something to numb you from it. Make up mental disorders so that they can treat you for the rest of your life and make you a drug addict on frickin' permanent cocaine. Right? They tell us that you've got ADHD, you can't sit still. It's just all right, I'm in school. Why would you want to sit still, for one? How boring is this stuff? So it looks like all these ADHD kids and all these people who've gotten in trouble with the police and so on and so forth, they are the people who might actually make a difference in this world. And if your world is predicated upon things existing in a constant state of sameness, these people are a threat to the entire system. And so what we'll do is we'll invent a mental disorder that we can't prove with a blood test, and we will give dangerous, toxic, addictive, psychoactive drugs to them for the rest of their life, and we'll start them when they are children. Brilliant way to take out the entrepreneurs in your society. You know that? Entrepreneurs, ADHD, same thing, same behaviors. All right? One is a mental disorder, and the other is a order disorder. All right? They create disorder and chaos and things like that in a system that is predicated on nothing but changelessness. All right? If you want a society that's only consistently getting worse, people who think outside the box are not useful. Because people who think outside the box figure out how things work and try to change them for the better. So we've been kneecapped and destroyed and brainwashed over the thing. That's why half the people, I wouldn't say half, I don't know what percentage, but when I have the subtitle, I'm 6'6", without shoes, I'm very tall, and it's scary. Like, I've met people who are 6'7", and I feel a little bit frightened, like, when people are much, much larger than you, if you're 5'6" or something like that, and you're coming up to me and a full foot taller than you, a little part of your brain called the amygdala just goes off. It senses this guy could freaking hurt me. I mean, I won't. I'm very nice. I'm very friendly and snuggly. All right, but it doesn't change the fact that a part of your brain is afraid. Okay, and that's what I feel when I'm around police and some other dangerous individuals, and some people in the quote unquote freedom movement as well. I just feel like they're a threat, and I don't like it. Because, like most people who got into this work, I got into it wanting to do the right thing, wanting to support mankind, deliver justice for those people who have been destroyed by this system, deliver care and support and help to those people who are fighting against it and trying to correct it and trying to help the people that have been destroyed by it. That's why I joined up, because something bad had happened to me, and I wish that there was somebody like me there to help me when I needed me. But they weren't, and so now I help people to deal with the fact of the stuff that they know, the stuff that has happened to them. But some of these people who've had bad things happen to them, I'm not gonna deny them that. They didn't take those bad things happening to them as a point of reflection as to what bad things actually are, what you are actually doing, the things you are saying to people. Vibes, right? I had this guy at Shadows, the student bar in Auckland City University, and he said to me, life is about one thing: the search for good vibes. And vibes means vibrations. Okay? Like proper vibrations. Everything's built on vibration. And you can step into a room with somebody who's got a bad little distorted field, like, in those horror movies, or some digital distortion effect where the bad guy goes, and they're kind of like out of phase with reality, and it's very unnerving to see on the screen. And some people give off that kind of vibration when you walk into the room. God. And then they walk out, and you're like, right? They're around and they're tense, bro. They're absolutely tense. You can't relax around them. They're not fun to hang around. You can't get into hysteric fits of laughter with them. What is the point in associating with them? These people are not fun. There's so many people in this movement who just don't know how to have fun. They don't know how to be fun. They don't know how to make fun of themselves. They always bring in the darkness and the misery and the problems and things like that. It's exhausting. Turn them off. Like, seriously. And if I start exhausting you, freaking turn me off. Anybody who's spreading those bad vibes, man, see you later. May come back to check again, see if you have wisened up, and invariably, people don't. They've either got a good vibe when they're starting off and they keep it, or they just don't. And instead of working on themselves and their own kind of frequency and vibration, NZ Nikki is saying here. So yeah, that's the thing. Frequency and vibration. And if that is your focus, thank you, Badger, for that. She says she's totally agree. Focus on the negativity will get us nowhere. And so that there's point by point, yes, negativity exists, and yes, it deserves attention. Why, though? Okay, if you're in the wild and you hear this, do you get really freaked out or something like that? You're like, nah, it's probably just a bird or something like that. But if you hear a, you're like, oh my God. You know, see, there's a different vibration coming out of those different animal calls. One signals danger, the other does not. And we are very, very attuned to figuring out and sensing that which is indeed a danger to us. That's why the news has this motto, if it bleeds, it leads, because anything that could be a danger. I remember one time I was driving around in the car, and it said, breaking news, a cyclist has been hit by a car. Really? Like, I really need to know that. Some person who I don't know got hit off their car, which happens 100 times a day. All right, this is breaking news. Like, stop the frickin' presses, everybody! Wait, guys, look! Some guy's been knocked off a bike. Is that right? Just for frickin', I can't believe it. Why is it people actually want to pay attention to this kind of crap? It's freaking unreal. It's a perpetual frustration thing. Now, also at the same time, very, very positive stuff, and people who are only positive all the time, you know, stuff like that. My gosh, make my skin crawl. There's a reason why light and dark exists, just for the same reason that hot and cold exists. Right? Everything exists in a state of polarity. For every one, there is an other. Now, is negativity your focus? You know, is positivity your focus? I don't really think either of them really should be. I think you should have a look at negative things because it's important to know the bad things that are going on so that they don't just jump out of the bushes and just eat you like a tiger. But also at the same time, having an unhealthy amount of overly uncritical positive thinking can lead you into just as much dangerous territory. So, yes, I understand. As Badger says, for everything, turn, turn, turn. There is a season, turn, turn, turn. Right? You can understand that you're living on what I call a biological undulation. All right? It undulates like a waveform pattern, you know, up and down and up and down. Sometimes life's really good. Sometimes you get sent a beautiful letter by a listener who said that you helped them through some horrible thing in their life, and you feel good. And then you check your email, and there's some long frickin' abusive thing from some son of a, you know. But you don't remember the positive letter. You don't. You just remember the negative ones. That's why I love my mods so much, is because there's so many negative people on social media and the internet who have personality disorders, sadists, psychopaths, narcissists, and they want nothing better than to get a reaction out of you. You know, they want your attention. That's why they try to hurt your feelings so badly. But they hope you'll go, oh, he hurt my feelings. He said something that wasn't true. I'm going to argue with this person for hours and hours and hours, you know. And your wife's like, honey, you're coming to bed. Like, no, somebody on the internet is wrong. It's just prioritize. Okay? I'm not saying all negativity is bad. All right? It's so much of a focus in some people's lives. Like, let's say, for instance, I had a problem. And I had a problem today. And can you guys comment in the chat room about whether or not the audio levels are actually like overblown or underblown or something like that? Because that would be really nice. Because my problem today was adjusting to the new schedule for the show, which at the moment in New Zealand Standard Time is 6 p.m. till 8 p.m. And when we go into daylight savings in a little over a week, I think it'll be 5 p.m. till 7 p.m. local New Zealand time. But that is on the opposite side of the date line in the Pacific Standard Time Zone, 10 till midnight. And it also means that the show is competing head-to-head with Saturday Night Live. So you are listening to the very first episode of Vinny Eastwood Saturday Night Live. And everybody in the chat room that has said anything about the sound has said that the sound is going fine. All right, so that means that I can now make my point without looking like a frickin' idiot. I had this problem I was stewing on it. I'm going to be real with you here. I was so upset to hear what had happened to the network. I'm not even allowed to tell you guys what actually happened to the network. But if you want to join Ground Zero Radio, guys, you've got to go to groundzeroplus.com now. I was so upset at what happened to the network and that we had to reset and do everything. And at the same time as I was really upset about the network reshuffle, my audio, I started checking back on the shows, and the audio was totally unbalanced, man. It's like the guest sounded like this and Vinny sounded like this. It was just, oh my god, how long has that been going on? You know, and I was so trapped in this two-pronged attack of my own neglect, I guess. And then just before the show today, I had an idea of sitting down and a way of testing and fixing the problem for myself. And according to you guys, the problem therein is now fixed. I did it, and it was so simple. I was so worried about it for weeks. I don't even think I've done a show in over 2 weeks now, because I was so concerned about the issue and didn't know how to do it. And today, right before the show, maybe an hour before the show, I suddenly got the idea of how to do it. What was I worried about? Everything happens as it needs to, you know? There's this... David Icke talked about a flow with me on the show one time. That he doesn't need a plan, you know, stuff just seems to work out. And while true, it's interesting when you're a creative person, okay? Because, like, for example, can I tell you what your creative ideas are? No, because I didn't come up with them. And there's a chance you didn't come up with them either. But the thing is, B plus we equals says, sounds sweet, Vinny. Please mention study proving tobacco is neutralizing the nanotech? Tobacco patches, he says. Well, I was unaware of that. You'll have to forgive me, B plus. Okay, and Droopy Dog has said he's found my channel again after a few years from Mike Martin's channels. Mike in the Night! God, I love that guy. You know, I didn't think I'd love a Portuguese man, but I do. And he, it's something interesting that, who are the, there's cool people in this truth movement too. Okay, I was talking about the difficult people, I was, but the cool people, okay, not to toot my own trumpet, but people like moi, who actually do care, you know, like you'll talk to them about a problem that you haven't really been agonizing and throwing onto people's shoulders or whatever, and I get that all the time too. People tell me what's wrong with them. They tell me what their life problems are, and I listen, and I care, and I suggest things, and I tell my own stories of similar difficulties that I've been through. You know? That's freaking awesome. Toyori Mason says, damn, I'm hot. And it's just like, are you reading my mind there, bro? Ironically, considering my last statement of creativity. It's hot in this studio, bro. It's hot in this jacket. And I'm drinking hot coffee. And I've got the windows closed so that the sound quality was like extra perfect today. So it's like, oh my God, I am in the meat oven, yo. Was that a cool sound effect with the I'd have to get that worked into the intro or something like that, which reminds me, I need to do a new intro for the Vinny Eastwood show. The last intro that I came up with, like, I went over and saw John Ansell. John Ansell's an award-winning ad guy. Unbelievable. And I asked him, okay, well, I'll tell you what, I'll do a trade with you. I'll help you record some of your songs, using my skills, and then we will also use your skills to help come up with an idea for a radio ad for the Vinny Eastwood show. And he went around and he thought about it, and he was like, you know, what if Bill Gates, Klaus Schwab, and King Charles were all in a room together talking about how to get rid of Vinny Eastwood? Yeah, it's just classic. And he does all the voices and everything. I mean, not for the recorded versions that we do the thing. I did those voices. I'm pretty good at voices too. Not just because John's better. They are actually a lot better. But I did steal all his ideas. I mean, I felt like I earned those ideas he gave me because I did a little bit of work in exchange for it. But he told me one thing that was very important. If it ain't funny, it's not an ad. And which reminds me, I need to talk to Ground Zero Radio about rewriting and redoing some of the ads if they're open to. I mean, it's not my responsibility, but if I see things that need doing, I want to take responsibility for them. I want to help you come up with ads and make the funnies and stuff like that. And maybe John would be willing to help as well to make Ground Zero Radio ads funny. Because if it ain't funny, it ain't an ad. You know, that'd be good, man. And South Oz, man, he says he's from Pondbean. We were on with Lauren's Best the other month. Yeah, I remember that, man. I love Lauren, actually. He's quite nice. He's very, very, you know. I can't. What is it? Eastern European, Central European? I think it's Netherlandish. You know, he's like Peter Pan. He's from Netherlands. And this is the other thing. There's so many cool people. As I was saying before, in the truth movement, that you can just get on like a house on fire, man. You can just have a good laugh, have a good chat, and they make you feel like an inflated balloon. You know, on the show, some guests, I will walk out of the studio after 2-3 hours under really heavy lights. And I would be, my brain places would be in a jumble, you know, stuff like that, because I'd just been working really, really hard doing the show. You know, doing shows is hard work. If it wasn't, everybody would have their own show, but they don't. Okay, because there's only certain types of people who can do it consistently. And if you're not one of those people, that's okay. You know, if you're just not cut out for talk radio. I remember one time I got fired from a dishwashing job at the Mud Brick Cafe on Waiheke Island because my mate was supposed to tell me when I was supposed to be working and was supposed to tell me where the roster is so that I could check. He rostered me on, didn't tell me that he'd rostered me on, and didn't tell me of the existence of the roster. And so naturally, I didn't turn up for work when I was scheduled to be there and then got fired. And then I met one of the other chefs there at a mate's party sometime later. And he says, oh, well, yeah, you're really not cut out to be a dishwasher. Really? I'm not cut out to be a dishwasher. Man, what a depressing revelation. It's just like, oh man, we just can't do some jobs, us people. Hey, like, we're just not good enough. We're just not freaking good enough. And that's what I found interesting. Actually, is that on talk radio, there's this constant phrase of like, oh, that person loves hearing the sound of his own voice. I do. I think my voice sounds freaking awesome. I actually am interested in listening to shows that I do, even though I don't do it very often at all. But when I do, I actually really enjoy my show. All right, and is it just because of the sound of my own voice, or is it because of the words that I'm using? Is it just ego or something of that nature? Well, it actually is. It's all of those things. Okay, but at the same time, you wouldn't have been given a show in the first place if you didn't have the talent in the first place. You see what I'm saying? And to get onto this network, you not only had to have talent, but you had to be consistent. Talent that doesn't just fizzle out. Talent that just keeps on going. Most people do not have that. Talk radio is one of the most highly attritious job titles in the world. It like in the Navy SEALs, for example, they recruit the best and the brightest to try and become Navy SEALs, and 25% of them fail. Right? This is the best of the best. 25% of them fail. In talk radio, 90% fail in the first month. Of the 10% that survive that, 90% of them fail. So you're down to 1% by the first 6 months. And of that 1% that arrive there, 90% of them fail by the first year. So you're down to 0.1%. And of that 0.1%, 90% of them fail before the second year of the show is up. You see what I'm saying? And it just keeps getting... So many people in this industry just come and freaking go. Especially in the truth movement when there ain't no money. Okay? If you did the Alex Jones route... or the BBC route. I would say the American Broadcasting Corporation model or the BBC, British Broadcasting Corporation model. One of them taxes the population at force and then gives them all their content for free. And the other one advertises to all those people. And so that the advertisers basically control what content gets produced and what doesn't. Neither of those models seem great. And it was after watching a video by James Corbett from the CorbettReport.com, who I think he's one of the greats, me, Max Egan, Mark Passio, and James Corbett. Those are the other guys that I know who started around about the same time and didn't sell out. And are still around today and still doing our thing despite all the challenges that have been thrown at us with the censorship and what have you, We're very good at what we do and we're doing it for the right reasons. And it's important to know that, okay? That there are really good people in this movement who do deserve your trust, who do deserve your support, if only people knew how to discern the opposite as well. Who are you listening to that makes you feel tense? Like I was saying before, I get off this show and depending on the person I'm interviewing, not the subject matter. Subject matter is irrelevant. We've covered everything from astrotheology to the zodiac, all right? There doesn't seem to be a hell of a lot of difference there, but it's from A to Z anyway. And this... element, I get off the show and I feel uplifted. I feel so excited. I feel like a balloon that's about to burst. And then sometimes I come off and I just feel drained. I can't do nothing. And it's just like, man, I hate it when that happens. Craig Powell says, Droopy Dog, he says I'm not cut out to do an entry-level minimum wage job. What a dumb, lazy thing to tell someone. Yeah, it's funny, how communism works. That's another thing. I remember I was talking about I was thinking about an old friend of mine, and we were really good friends, and then all of a sudden he started being really spiteful and sort of mean to me. And I only discovered like maybe years later after, my friend just suddenly turns on me for some reason. I don't know what the hell's going on. And it turns out that he started reading Chairman Mao's work and getting hardcore into communism and becoming one of those people. And I was just like, man, goodness gracious me, was I nescient. All right. You know what nescient is? It's the opposite point of ignorance. Ignorance is when the information gets presented to you, you ignore it. Nescient is the information exists somewhere, but you've never seen it before. It's never even been presented to you. You never even thought about it. Right? And I was out on the street with these socialist activists in New Zealand who are like fighting for the minimum wage, fighting against the banks, doing what I thought, conceivably were good things, or at least they were being activists against the, at the time, corrupt New Zealand Prime Minister John Key, which rhymes with shonky and donkey, and oh my goodness, is that appropriate? Anyway, later on, finding out who these people actually really were and what they think, they invited me to this party, sitting around a fire or something like that, and they're singing old Russian communist songs like "Shoot them all, like what the hell? I was like sitting there going, "You got to be freaking kidding me!" It's like that. That is the scary thing, is that unless people think you're actually part of the club, they don't reveal who they really, truly, actually are to you until it's already too late, And so this thing has been wearing on me a little bit, and this was the realization behind it, is that, how you got a left-wing government, and then it screws people over for a significant period of time until people get tired of a left-wing government, and then they elect a right-wing government to save them from it, who will then screw them over for an extensive period of time until they get tired of it, to replace it with a left-wing government that does exactly what the last left-wing government did. You see how that cycle works, It's like transitioning from an abusive relationship to abusive relationship, You're never going to get out, and they don't want you to remember. Memory is such a fleeting thing nowadays, isn't it, guys? So many people don't have any idea. They can't even remember what they had for frickin' breakfast. And I could be disappointed, right? But I was thinking about it, right? I talked to some people in the truth movement, and they're young truthers, okay? Like I've been truthing for freaking nearly 20 years. I think 17 of them professionally, and these people have not done the work that I've done. Not the work into studying the things that they don't know, that they're curious about, and not done the work on themselves, understanding who they are as a human being, right? And they are stuck in this, it's like a record that's broken, all right? It repeats and repeats and repeats itself. I can't believe this. I can't understand why people do that. It's just like, okay, you can't believe that people are this dumb. I love hearing that one. Okay, with all the successive years of education, malnutrition, and brainwashing and thought cancellation techniques that have been deployed on the public, you can't believe the public are this dumb, right? You can't believe they're this gullible. You can't believe that they can just be directed by the media to completely change their entire personality and all of their beliefs just like that and suddenly become your enemy? You can't believe that? There's very clear reasons why that is the case, guys. But you're stuck. You're stuck in this, I can't believe it. It's not because you can't believe it. It's that you wouldn't do such a thing. Would you? Would you brainwash a whole generation of children in order to be little communist devils that destroy nations, societies, people's lives, things like that? You wouldn't do that. Okay? This is what Jordan B. Peterson, or JBP as he's known for sure, JBP, yeah, you know me, he talked about narcissism, and the thing is that victims of narcissistic abuse, and I think that anybody who's ever actually been a victim of the police or the government or an abusive relationship share basically the same level of what narcissistic abuse really brings to your life. And one point that he said that was quite poignant is that you will try to justify things and you will try to resolve things in life. Trying to do that with the government or your abusive partner or whatever who is infested with just like record levels of narcissism is a bad idea, principally because it's not going to work, because they don't have the mindset that you do. You want to be a good person, you want things to be resolved, but they're a bad person. They don't want to resolve things. They want to control things. And every time you are around them, they will be trying to control you. They'll be trying to get information out of you. They're going to try and coerce your decision making. You see? The only way to win is not to play. Like thermonuclear war and war games, right? And you at best, Jordan said, will be able to simply accept that fact and walk away if you're able. If you're unable to walk away, you're going to become what can be termed the grey matter, right? You don't have emotions around them because they feed off of them. You don't tell them anything because they feed off of that too and use it against you. This kind of abuse is very damaging to the psyche. Like, yeah, man, have you ever had a panic attack before? I've had heaps of them. And they are extremely unpleasant. And I'm sure everybody will be like, oh, well, I've got these techniques and there's EFT tapping and so on and so forth. Okay, that's great. There's all these techniques for healing and what have you. But that's not the issue I'm really talking about here. What I'm talking about is what it does to your mind, what it does to your soul when you are, in fact, in an abusive relationship with your government or your relevant partner, or somebody who's got power over you. Because that's what they crave. They crave power over you. Control. That's what they want. And if you're not careful, they'll get it. And they don't learn by you saying, you know, that's really not nice to call me those names. They don't learn. Did they get punched in the head? No, they didn't. Well, then they're not going to learn. Did they have their house burned down as a result of insulting you? No, they didn't. Well, then they're not going to learn. You see? They learn solely by direct consequence. Unless you show these people the consequences of messing with you, they will continue messing with you. You need to be the kind of dangerous person who people don't want to mess with if you want to go out and deal with these people. That is why they are so prevalent in today's society, because most people are toothless and spineless. They don't stand up for themselves. I'm as guilty of it as anybody. You know, there are whole bunches of times where I've been afraid and cowardly and apathetic, ignorant, lazy. These are the four horsemen of the apocalypse, guys. All right, we are bringing about an end to our own society by the neglect of our responsibility to be dangerous. Dangerous to dangerous people. Show them what happens when you mess with them. And when you do stand up for yourself, put boundaries in place, and enforce them, they won't accept it. And they'll try even harder to work their little games, make their little threats, try to get you off balance, try to make you fearful, try to get you to kowtow to them, try to get you to apologize to them as if you've done something wrong, but you haven't. And because you're not enforcing your boundaries, they will keep pushing them over and over and over again, all right? But they'll be nice too. That's the difference. Is that an evil, like straight up evil, bad person is bad all the time. Are you going to wind up having a long-term relationship with them? No. But if somebody's bad most of the time, but sometimes they're good, they're really good, you will develop an addiction for trying to make that good part come out again. All right? And you'll jump through hoops. You'll try every trick under this frickin' sun to try and get this horrible person, this mean-spirited, black-souled user and abuser to try and be nice to you. Because that was the thing that you really wanted all along. You just wanted them to be nice to you. You just wanted them to show you a little bit of care and affection and love. But they don't know what care or affection or love actually is. And if they do any of this stuff, it's just to addict you so that they can continue abusing you and controlling you, which is what they really want. Okay? If you had to give the corporations and the government a personality disorder, it would be psychopathy, because they are completely unable to conceive of the consequences of what they do in a moral fashion. They literally don't care. Somebody could abuse you and swear at you 50 times per day or something. Let's say you're living with somebody like that. What it does to your consciousness, you know, you can't walk around without something distracting you. And the thoughts are in your head about how much you hate this person, how frickin' horrible they are to you, because you're trying to reach resolution. You're trying to get through to them. You're trying to get them on board with the idea that there's such a thing as justice in this world, and that you can make it if you try hard enough. There isn't a mechanism that proves that theory correct. If this horrible person has done horrible things to you for years, for your life, you know, in terms of the government's abuse of you and its relationship that you have with it, they are completely incapable of perceiving that anything they've ever done is actually wrong. All right? You ever hurt somebody you loved? I have, you know, with my words. I can say very mean things when I'm really upset, haven't eaten, you know. I get hangry, guys, I do. And when they tell me how it made them feel, like when I ask them, like I'll sometimes think, you know, how did I make that person feel when I said that to them, when I did that? And they tell me how bad it was. Man, the guilt, the shame. That's how I know that I've got a conscience, because I actually hurt. Like the pain that I inflict on other people, if they tell me what it did to them, I hurt. Okay, I can absorb that pain back again. It's like a feedback loop. It's like karma. It just freaking comes straight back to you. And I guarantee you, there's a lot of people in this movement, okay, both online and offline, okay, who are like that. They really do care if they've done something wrong, and they try to be better. But there are those other people who could literally incapable of conceiving of the fact that they're not perfect. All right? They'll say, oh, yeah, I'm not perfect. But meanwhile, on the inside of their brain, yes, I am. I'm absolutely perfect, and I will control all of you and destroy your entire lives. It's just like, oh, my gosh. It's so frightening. It's absolutely so frightening because you've got, as a person with a conscience, you've got no remedy for that. No matter what they've done to you, no matter how long they did it to you for, you will never get them to genuinely feel bad about what they did to you, give you a genuine apology, and subsequently change their behavior. Okay, this is how you tell who's got a conscience and who's a good person and who's not. Okay? Somebody who does have a conscience will apologize and then change their behavior. Right? Somebody who doesn't will not apologize. They'll excuse. They'll say, like, oh, well, this was happening to me, and that was happening to me, and so on and so forth. And so, I don't really think I should apologize for being horrendously abusive and enslaving and committing genocide and stuff like that, because, I had a lot on my plate. Oh, you poor dear. You poor freaking dear. Sunny in SoCal says that, Vinny, have a Snickers candy bar. Never mind, it's made with genetically modified ingredients. The Tim Tam bug chocolate. Yeah, I was thinking about that before the, what are they called? The Hare Krishnas. And I guarantee you they are into that, putting bugs in the food, man. Like, honestly. I mean, their religious text is called the Burger Bug Eater. All right? Like, I'm not kidding. I'm not making that up. Now, it's just Tayuri's saying, what is love? A feeling they made us have. Now I love fish and chips and the feelings it gives me. Oh, that's good. And I think this is another thing that we have to really be cognizant of, and it's so difficult to resist. There's so many temptations in every single frickin' sector. We've got poisonous food, sugary, savory, artificially sweetened, sugar-free. There's porn on demand. There's dating apps full of people who want short-term fun. It's just like, man, the wide array of things that you can do to, temporarily make yourself feel good about yourself or just feel good physically at the cost of your conscience and your health is all pervasive. All right? It's all pervasive. It's freaking difficult. They're trying to get you into a state where you can't deal with any discomfort. Like, who was it? It was a comedian who was talking about he had Wi-Fi on an airplane. Like, he's cruising around 30,000 feet and he's got Wi-Fi on his phone and perfectly good internet. And then the captain says, oh, we're having a technical issue with the Wi-Fi at the moment. It's going to be out for about 5 minutes. And this Gen Z or whatever, I don't know what you call young people these days. I'm like 40 years old. I'm not a young person anymore. But the comedian looks across to this person at like 5 minutes of no Wi-Fi at 30,000 feet, and this kid goes, "This is bullshit." Like, right, like stuff that would be up there with magic for people like 20, 30, 40 years older than you, is now so common and so easily and readily available at all times. All times that stuff is available. What are people doing with it? It's something that's making us too comfortable. We're supposed to have discomfort in our lives. Bruce Lee said something words to that effect, that life isn't supposed to be easy. Imagine if everything was just so easy. There's no challenge in it. You ever played a video game with unlimited lives and unlimited ammo and stuff like that? I mean, maybe you might do it a couple of times, perhaps, but after a while it gets boring because there's no actual challenge in it. This is what the whole concept of video game creation is about. You find that the popular video games are the ones that actually are challenging, but achievable. That's how they get you. Slight bit of challenge with achievement. So at the same time that you're achieving absolutely nothing except playing a video game, and I play video games, I'm guilty of this too, you get a little reward in your brain, like, oh, I got this score, you know, that kind of thing, and you're just brainwashing yourself. I'm brainwashing myself, guys. It's just freaking horrid. It's very, very difficult to look at myself objectively sometimes, because I realize what a massive failure I have been in so many different ways. And people will be like, oh, but Vinny, you've done this and that and the other. Yes, but that's me doing that, okay? It might be better compared to some other people, but I can't compare myself to anybody else. I'm me. I'm responsible for what I'm doing, you know? And got Catseeker in the Facebook chat room. She says, quote, at all times. She's just remembering the goodnight Kiwi who climbed to the top of the tower to say good night at what, 10 or 11 p.m. Then all broadcast finished until morning. You know, there just wasn't enough content at the time, perhaps. But yeah. What is happening, man? Like we've got entertainment at our fingertips 24/7. We're never not in a position where we can be entertained. And what is the entertainment doing for us, right? I think... like I'm making a movie at the moment called Grindspot, and in the year 2033, there's an alien invasion that's happened, and mankind defeats them all right after we dissolve all nations and unite to defeat the alien threat, and then we destroy 80% of the population, and so we corral them into these little compact, highly surveilled metropolitan centres. And then we force nanotech into their food supply. And the people who refuse to take the nanotech can't be seen or heard by the people who have. That's the opening of Grindspot. And this idea that I have is about creating entertainment that actually does something, right? Other than just entertain. It's supposed to have an emotional resonance. People have to feel something noticeable for me to feel like my artwork or creative endeavor has actually achieved what I want it to. Okay? And the reason why I'm doing this in my spare time, and the reason why we have people like volunteering, like talented people, you know, who are actually really good at what they do, are volunteering to help this project come up, and many of them, you know, don't necessarily know who I am or what I've done in this truth movement and stuff like that. They're not there for that. They're just there because they love the idea. They think it's freaking awesome. And I worked really hard on that idea. It took me 9 months to come up with the first draft of the script. 9 months, guys, you know. And there were significant delays because of, you know, personal issues and stuff like that at the time. But at the end of the day, if the entertainment that we're watching is not enriching us and giving us deeper insight into the human condition as entertainment and art form is supposed to do, shine light upon the human condition so that we can deeper understand it, that kind of thing, then it's missing the mark, right? And it becomes unmemorable and boring. I mean, you've seen an unmemorable movie. What was the name of that one? I can't remember. You see? And we have this, I think, industry problem where narcissistic personality disordered people have infiltrated virtually every single sector of power, and the entertainment industry is one of those sectors of power that's been infiltrated quite successfully by ruthless criminal sociopathic scumbaggery psycho filth who really don't have a whole lot of creativity between them. I mean, they can steal other people's ideas, they can distort them, they can manipulate them, but can they just create that stuff out from scratch, from their own head, from their own mind, and then put it on the screen, or put it on stage, or put it on the wall or something? No, they can't. All right, that's why they need people like us, guys. All right, that's why they need us. Because if you just destroyed everything, like I remember watching Artists Against AI, and the Facebook post came up, and this artist was told by somebody, you should be grateful that you get paid to do your art. There's a lot of people who can't do it, and art is completely like, you can't live in the art, you can't such and such and blah, 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 you can't eat the art, and so you're not keeping anybody alive, and you don't really bring much value to society. It's like, really? Artists don't bring much value to society. Okay, imagine if there was no paintings, no pictures, no stories, no movies, no TV, no skits, no memes, no GIFs, no JPEGs, no music. You hear that? It's the silence of a world without true art. Creating things which do not yet exist except but in your head, and using them as a form of quote-unquote entertainment to enrich people's lives and give them a reason to actually enjoy their life, even though they might be experiencing a very tough time right now. You ever had that happen to you? I remember listening to the director's commentary for The Shawshank Redemption, and Frank Darabont, who's also incidentally the creator of the Walking Dead, before they canned him after the first season and then set it all on a farm because it would be cheap. And then just turfed him out. It's like, fuck, that's mean, bro. Nasty bunch of people, that AMC. Anyway, he said that people had written him letters after watching The Shawshank Redemption saying that they were going through a real hard time. Like there might have been a death in the family, or they might have had a relationship that was very dear to them that was ending, real hard times that people were in, suffering the effects of unemployment, for example. And that watching that movie about a man falsely convicted who spends the bulk of his life behind bars for a crime he didn't commit, who despite everything and what everybody told him and what his experiences told him, never lost hope. And people would watch that movie and they would be given from that work of fiction hope in their real lives. That is the power of true art. And Catseek is saying, Vinny, do you think AI is a bit scary, like the art it can create in a few seconds? Well, I use that word create loosely. There's a number of things to say to that. Is it a bit scary? I don't know. Have you ever seen Terminator? 2001: A Space Odyssey? You've seen what AI turning against mankind can do? Right? You damn right it's scary. AI will just control everything. This is what the New World Order want to do. Okay, it is said that it is better to rule in hell than it is to serve in heaven. And so what they want to do is rule in hell. And according to the Christians, or at least some of them, I'm not sure if this is actually like in the text per se, but earth is hell. This is Satan's realm, as far as they're concerned. This is, he runs the show because we're not in heaven, therefore we're in hell. All right? Now, they want to create a god. Okay, New World Order does. Let's create a god. And the only thing that can be omnipotent, omnipresent, omniscient, right? That's all-powerful and everywhere and everything, so on and so forth. The only thing that could do that in our version of reality is a God computer, right? An all-powerful AI that is capable of controlling and seeing and being power hungry and controlling everything that in existence. You know, how tall you are, how short, what your genes express themselves as, right? Down to the minutiae of detail. The only thing that they really want is a God computer to run this section of hell so that they don't have to do any work anymore. You know, put your hands up, guys. All you got to do is describe a little something to AI, and and also at the same time, my other thoughts on it is about the Luddite argument. All right, maybe people don't really understand the concept of a Luddite. So back in the day, you know how you had to stitch things by hand, sew it, and there was no machine to just manufacture all that thread for you, etc. Yeah, at the time that those looms that made and manufactured clothing and materials started to get invented, there were a group of people who protested them called Luddites. They were afraid that their livelihood of stitching stuff by hand was going to go out the window. And sure enough, it did. They couldn't stitch stuff by hand. And they thought that the unemployment rate would go up, but it actually didn't. As new technology gets invented, things that you have to do manually no longer need to be done manually. And so you direct yourself into other industries, sometimes even newly formed creative industries, that don't require, or at least don't currently have, a technology that can do that stuff for you. Okay? So when the personal computer came out, people said this is going to destroy accountancy, this is going to destroy XYZ, bookkeeping jobs, etc. And it did. And all those people found different jobs that the computers didn't know how to do yet. Now, the scary thing about AI, if I might be so bold, with my very limited knowledge of it, is that the sky's the limit for what it can make approximation, right? If I'm a human being, I'm Vinny Eastwood, and I have a certain style of writing, a certain style of humor, theoretically one day an AI would be able to replicate that. Could you imagine what somebody imitating me, Vinny Eastwood, with all his unique quirks, and imitating me perfectly? That thought right there scares the hell out of me. There'd be another Vinny. Damn it, I thought it was unique. It's... I gotta use that word loosely. And Badger is saying, doesn't that deny God's supreme control to say that this is Satan's realm? Is it Satan who's omnipresent here, not God? I don't understand the context. This is just something a Christian told me this one time, that he believes that this is Satan's realm here on Earth, and that another person, completely unrelated, told me that the New World Order is trying to create a God AI to control everything everyone does, to imitate the powers of God, i.e. rule in hell. That's just what I'm saying by that. In terms of denying God's supreme control. Does God have supreme control? I remember the scene from... Bruce Almighty, no, I think it was Evan Almighty actually, with Steve Carell and Morgan Freeman playing God. He comes up to him and he says, when somebody prays for strength, does God just suddenly give them that strength? Or does God give them the opportunity to be strong? If a woman prays to God to be able to have the strength to continue loving her husband and working on their relationship, does God just suddenly make the relationship better, or does he give that woman the opportunity to make her relationship better? Right? And I thought that was a very interesting concept in thinking about how, quote unquote, the divine will sort of works in our society, that everybody's, quote unquote, given a choice. And so therefore the concept that God is quote unquote all powerful comes into a problematic territory. And Amos is quite correct that if there was an AI version of Vinny Eastwood, the jokes would be better. Seriously, the Vinny Eastwood joke, they're just bad, and you guys get the A grade, maybe even the B grade material, but my friends in my real life, God bless them, they get the C grade and the D grade jokes. And I think it's my mate Dante. I think I do like making him laugh, but I found, I don't know, maybe is this sadistic that sometimes when I tell a joke that is just so bad that he puts his thumb and his forefinger to the bridge of his nose and tilts his head down and just it's like I gave him a mild migraine sort of thing, and he's just trying to squeeze that area of the bridge of his nose in between his eyes. And he's smiling, but it's sort of like a pain grimace, and shaking his head back and forth. That to me is better in terms of reaction, because I get to it's meta, okay? I'm getting to laugh at how bad the joke is and what somebody's bad reaction to the bad joke is. I don't know the mechanism. I didn't make the rules. I just find it funny hurting people with really bad jokes. I'm a bad person, okay? I admit it, and I'm trying. I'm trying to make the jokes better. No, I'm not. I'm lying. I'm actually trying to make them worse. Like just as bad as they could possibly be. Because ultimately, at the end of the day, there's no good reason. There's no good reason to not have a good laugh. And Amos has confirmed, he says, I've witnessed that, folks. They are worse in real life. Yeah, seriously, the real life jokes of Vinny Eastwood. I mean, the show says that they're worse than living in a high-tech global police state run by child trafficking Satanists. But you just don't know exactly how much worse they are until you can't get away from it. Until you're like sitting around and having a few drinks, and Vinny's constantly, just freaking relentlessly coming up with terrible joke after terrible joke. It's freaking unbelievable. Where does he come up with these? I heard what I come up with a joke this morning. I think there was a New Zealand bird with a phlegm problem. It was called a hock-tui. And if you are a New Zealander, you might get that joke. But if you're not, should I explain the joke? Is the joke getting even funnier when you explain it or not? I don't know. But yeah. People place their trust and they place their faith in God, and I can understand that from a metaphysical level, but not from a religious one. And it's concerning as well, because I have that belief, because it sounds like narcissism as well. These people who go like, I've got a personal relationship with God, and sort of thing. And it's just like they sound freaking brainwashed, and I don't like that. I feel like I'm brainwashing myself. I'm confused about this, and people who have a religious mindset are confused about nothing, and I find that deeply troubling. Because they've got faith, right? Faith overrides all, and enables you to like ride this wave of reality and actually push yourself through. And some people actually truly benefit from being mind controlled. Taking on a religion, which is mind control, and actually benefiting their lives from it. The amount of people who used to drink out of control or were violent or something like that, and now they are fine. They've actually worked on themselves, and God, their religion, actually helped them to do that. That's what they credit it with. Whereas I'm more of the opinion that you did that work. You read the Bible, you did your Bible studies, and then you applied those lessons that you learned in your life. You were the one who did that. You were the one who chose to do that. God didn't do it for you. You did it for God, you see? And that's why I have a great affinity and also trepidation when it comes to my religious friends, because I love them deeply. And I love their faith, and I love what it does for them, and I love what they do with it. But I have a different way of looking at things and doing things, which adds up to roughly the same result anyway. So therefore, it doesn't necessarily matter what your belief is or what your religious system is. The question is whether or not it aligns with reality. Okay? You don't have to necessarily be, quote-unquote, a member of the human race in order to understand that there are immutable rules that if you break them, you're going to wind up getting yourself into a lot of trouble. Right? And I'm not talking about the government's going to hurt you. I'm not talking about this. Right? No. There's just things that you do that certain people don't like and will punish you for it is very, very similar to the rules that God has set out. God's law, universal law, natural law. Don't take that which does not belong to you. Breaking God's law, isn't going to work out terribly well for you. And the people who run society know this. That's why they often don't do these bad things themselves. They get their underlings to do it for them, therefore they get the karmic backlash. Not the bad guy who ordered them, but the order follower who carried it out. Very similar to these police officers that we talked about earlier in today's broadcast. So there we have it, ladies and gentlemen. We are going to be doing, and Chris France, our wonderful producer and web guy, and Chris, is there anything that you're not? He's not young, but that's not. He's experienced. You see, he's experienced. He says, "Be sure to send me the file as soon as you can, so I can post it into the mix. We'll publish immediately in the closest time slot." Thank you, Chris. I will do that. Exactly how to do that, I will figure out momentarily. But yes, Craig Power has just put us in us a little Bible quote. "I make light and create darkness. I make blessings and create disasters. I, the Lord, do all these things." Interesting, right? And that's the thing about knowledge, is it's kind of universal if it's true. All these things God does. And I don't even like talking about God. I don't like talking about aliens either. That may sound strange to you. I'm on a paranormal network and stuff, but it's more like a lot of those things are just out of your hands. What does God do? Well, can I stop God from doing something, or can I make God do something? No, I can't. Okay, I lose interest. Aliens are real, Vinny, and they're this, that, and the other. Okay, am I able to communicate with them? Well, no. Are they going to do anything for me or to me? Well, probably not. Okay, I'm losing interest now. Fluoride's in your water, Vinny. Oh, really? Can I get it out by buying a water filter or something? Well, yes, you can. Okay, I'm interested. 9/11 was an inside job, Vinny. Well, does that mean that I can learn from the fact that government sponsors terrorism, and that where the next time the government does some kind of terror attack on itself, I'll not be swept away with the crowd and believe the next frickin' hype that they're doing? Yes, you can. Okay, I'm interested. But when it comes to, there's a big guy, and he controls everything, and there's nothing you can do to stop that, Vinny, and he has all the rules. Okay, is there any influence that I can be on that? Nope. Yeah, you're sort of losing me there, bud. and maybe that's a bit cavalier of me to say, I must admit. But yeah, I haven't got my head like completely around it because I'm just not interested. Like, it just sounds like mind control to me. I got to tell you, religion sounds like mind control. And I don't like mind control, principally because I see what it does to people. I know what it's done to me. I was never fully awake as a kid, and I've done stupid things that I'm sure the New World Order would look at me as part of a statistical batch group of people that were negatively affected by their ill-gotten gains and their intricate designs, stuff like that. But at the end of the day, what I do is my responsibility, and I want to try and be responsible. That's it. I don't want to really blame some other entity for taking over my personal responsibility. It's just not my thing. And I'm not saying that all religious people do that. I'm just saying that that's my take on it. Well, that being said, that is a 2-hour show of me talking, and I haven't even finished the coffee for the show. So, what is it? Nearly 8 o'clock at night local time in New Zealand. All right, guys. Thank you so much, and please go to thevinnyeastwoodshow.com and donate, and hopefully this show will be shared out, subscribed, and liked. We'll see you again sometime, ladies and gentlemen, at thevinnyeastwoodshow.com.